The Shadow of the Rocks. It was a foggy night, with a cold breeze on the coast of California, when 5 friends decided to hike to a secluded beach for an impromptu camping trip. The beach was a local secret, known only by the oldest residents, and stories about it made even the bravest think twice before venturing there at night. Yet curiosity and a thirst for adventure outweighed fear, and the group resolved to take the risk. When they arrived, the beach looked like a scene from a disturbing dream. The wind howled, and the sound of waves was muffled by the thick mist cloaking everything around. One of the friends, Marcos, felt uneasy from the start. He insisted there was something strange about the beach. The others laughed, teasing him for his lack of courage, until one of them, Rafael, saw something unusual. There was a figure standing atop the nearby rocks, nearly invisible in the dim light, but undoubtedly there. The figure was tall and thin, with a disproportionately long silhouette, staring out at the ocean with an eerie stillness. They decided to approach, thinking it might be a lost traveler or perhaps an eccentric locale. But as they got closer, the figure stared at them without moving. A chill ran through the group as they realized its eyes were dark and hollow, as if there was nothing inside. In a sudden, desperate motion, the figure leaped into the sea with an unnatural jump. Instead of splashing into the waves, it seemed to sink slowly, while the waters around it darkened, as though something unseen was pulling it into the depths. Their discomfort grew when they returned to camp and found wet handprints around their tent, as if something had dragged its hands through the sand, trying to get in. They gathered, terrified, and returned to the hotel the next day. After researching the area, they discovered the beach was notorious for ancient legends about a man who had gone mad and disappeared there. Since then, no one has camped on that beach after dark, and those who try report seeing the ghostly figure still watching the sea, waiting for something or someone that will never come. The Lost Children of Pontal. In the 1970s, Eduardo and Marina, a young couple, decided to take their children on a special adventure to a little-known beach on the Brazilian coast called Pontal do Sumico. Surrounded by high dunes and wild vegetation, the beach had a primitive, untouched air, as if time had stopped there. It was a perfect place for children to explore, or so they thought. Lucas and Anna, ages 8 and 6, ran happily, fascinated by the landscape and the chance for adventure. They played hide and seek among the dunes, laughing and calling for their parents with their innocent voices. But at some point, the laughter ceased. Eduardo and Marina began to call out for the children, but there was no answer. As hours passed, despair replaced hope, and they asked the local fishermen for help. Reluctantly, the fishermen joined the search, mentioning that the beach was different, and that old stories warned of spirit guardians protecting the area, offended by intruders. Days went by, and the children were not found. In a final attempt at consolation, the fishermen gave the parents some of the children's belongings, found near a cave that was only revealed at low tide. Eduardo never forgot the cold, heavy feeling he had when he picked up the toys, as if a presence were beside him, watching, hidden. It is said that on the quietest nights, you can still hear children's laughter coming from the dunes, accompanied by a cold breeze that makes even the most seasoned local shiver. A tourist reported seeing 2 children playing in the sand. He called out to them, but they vanished, as if they were part of the sand itself. He returned to the hotel, terrified, and found an old toy in his bag. The same toy Eduardo had described years before. Since then, Pontal do Sumico has become a living legend, where the laments and whispers of the lost children echo among the dunes, freezing the hearts of those who dare to visit. The Woman of the Abandoned Lighthouse. The lighthouse at Clontarf was an imposing, solitary structure built on a cliff that jutted over the stormy waters of the Irish coast. On stormy nights, the villagers remembered Moira, the young woman who worked there. She was reserved and had few friends, but was known for her dedication to the lighthouse that guided boats safely home. One night, Moira mentioned to the fishermen that she had heard whispers from the beach. At first, she thought it was just the sound of the wind, but soon realized it was something more. The whispers became footsteps, light and almost imperceptible, but constant. By the third month, Moira began to see a figure in the water, a pale, disheveled woman who seemed to climb the cliff. Moira tried to look away, but the figure stared at her intently, as if she had a message to deliver. One morning, Moira was last seen standing on the cliff, with a vacant, distant look in her eyes, before disappearing. After her disappearance, the village was shrouded in a heavy silence. It is said that on foggy nights, the villagers see a lone figure dressed in white, standing at the edge of the beach, gazing at the lighthouse as if waiting for something. Some visitors reported feeling a deep chill when passing by the lighthouse, and one night, a couple saw the woman in white staring at them, slowly waving. The man walked toward her, but when he blinked, she vanished, and he felt a cold touch on his shoulder, as if something invisible was guiding him back from the beach. When they returned to their hotel, they found a piece of old, damp cloth inside their shoes, even though the shoes had been completely dry before they left the beach. Today, locals avoid the lighthouse, saying the woman in white roams the area, looking for Moira or perhaps a new soul to keep her company in her eternal vigil. The screams of the submerged grotto. On a Greek beach, famous for its clear waters, there existed a submerged grotto. For many divers, the cave was an irresistible attraction, but for locals, it was a cursed place, where the gods of the sea imprisoned the souls of the lost. The grotto had dark, winding passages that stretched out like a labyrinth into the depths, where sunlight never reached. A group of 4 experienced divers decided to explore the grotto. As they swam through the main passage, they began to hear a muffled sound, like a distant echo that resembled the groans of someone in agony. Thinking it was just the sound of water or pressure in their ears, they continued. But the cries became clearer. They stopped, uneasy, but Nikos, one of the divers, seemed hypnotized and began to swim into the shadows toward the cries. His friends tried to hold him back, but he broke free and vanished into the darkness. The atmosphere in the cave grew more oppressive, and the friends felt a heavy presence around them, as if something was watching them. They were forced to return and called for help, but Nikos was never found. As they surfaced, they heard one last scream, almost human, echoing from the depths. Since then, divers avoid the grotto. Many say they have heard voices from within the cave and felt icy touches, as if invisible hands were trying to pull them into the depths. The legend goes that Nikos is now part of the curse, trapped with the spirits that inhabit the cave, waiting for new explorers to share his fate.